Oh, guys. Oh boy, do I got a review for you today. Oh, this is gonna be a fun one. Cannibal Holocaust. Oh boy. Well, it was released in 1980. It was directed by Ruggero Deodato. And, yeah, this movie has quite the fascinating history behind it. But before I get into my review and the history behind Cannibal Holocaust, let's discuss what the movie's about. Okay, so it's about this professor. He goes out into the Amazon with a rescue team to locate these missing filmmakers. Because these filmmakers were filming a documentary about the local tribes out in the Amazon rainforest. They find them, but they discover that they're dead. And then they have to earn this tribe's trust to get their film reels. When they do, they go back to New York. They take the film to a television network, and then they get to find out exactly what happened when they were out there. Okay, so let's talk about the history of Cannibal Holocaust, and then after that, let's talk about what I thought of the film, and let's kind of analyze it a bit. Okay, so the history behind the film is that, okay, the film was shot in 1979, then it had its premiere in Milan, Italy back in 1980. And after 10 days, the film was seized by Italian law enforcement in the courts, and the director, Ruggero Deodato, was initially charged with obscenity. But then it eventually escalated to murder charges because they thought that the actors in the film were actually murdered. And then then he had to basically make the actors breach their contracts and prove that they were still alive by showing up. I believe it was on a talk show. And yeah, after that, this movie's infamy just made it become a cult classic, and it's enjoyed by many hardcore fans of horror to this day. And yeah, the infamy is definitely earned with Cannibal Holocaust. Let's talk about what I thought of the film. I think it's a highly effective horror film that not only beats you over the head with some absolutely horrific imagery shown on screen, but also what really makes it effective is its messages about journalism ethics, clash of cultures, and society as a whole. I think this movie's extremely well made, surprisingly well acted, considering that this movie's cast consists of actual tribespeople, porn stars, and unknown inexperienced actors. So the fact that this movie's actually acted surprisingly well is a very huge compliment for this film. What else can I say about Cannibal Holocaust? The horrific, unpleasant imagery that's shown on screen really packs a punch. There's gore, sexual assault, torture, you name it. This movie has it. And it's all shown in extremely graphic detail. If stuff like castration, abortion, rape, dismemberment, if any of that bothers you, avoid this movie like the fucking plague. Because this movie has it all. I'm serious. Also, if you can't handle like extremely sadistic characters, maybe just watch the first half, not the second half. Because when this movie starts focusing on the documentary crew and you get to basically just witness every horrible thing that they do, this movie's gonna piss you right the fuck off. But yeah, not only is the horror extremely effective, this movie has some excellent commentary on a bunch of different things. This movie really becomes effective with its use of its musical score. This movie's music it's a character itself. It's done very effectively, And there's like several different kinds of music. Like you get some very haunting shit. It sounds very sinister. It's actually kind of scary. But then you also get some very beautiful, mellow kind of music in here. Like, it almost doesn't even match the film's tone, but surprisingly, it fits very well. That's how I say that this movie's music is a character in of itself. It just brings a whole lot of personality into the movie. It gives the movie its identity. And when you hear that music, you'll never forget it. Every piece of music in this movie is excellent. But yeah, Cannibal Holocaust is definitely not a movie that you'll forget after you watch it. Even if you just watch it one time. I've seen this movie 5 times now. And each time, it just sticks with you. No matter how desensitized you get to it, this movie's tone is so bleak, it sticks with you. It sticks with you long after you watch it. And from a horror film, that's exactly what you want. If you're, but just keep it in mind, this is not a fun horror film. It's not a fun movie to watch. But this movie just provides pure visceral horror. It is what horror is meant to be. And if you're up for it, this movie is a rewarding experience, and it is everything you'd want out of a horror film. This movie was also very ahead of its time because this is the very first movie to ever use the found footage kind of format. And I thought it was done so well. It's actually done perfectly. This is one of the best uses of the found footage format ever put on film. Because it's used in a way to basically, when you're following these documentary filmmakers, because that's what the found footage aspect of the movie focuses on, this documentary crew. And the way it's utilized, it makes you feel, it just immerses you into the film and makes it feel like you are experiencing the horrors that they are going through, and also the horrors that they are causing. It is so well done, and Rogero Deodato, he showed cinematic brilliance when it came to that shit. It is fantastic. But yeah, with the messages like this, it's very blunt. Don't expect subtlety from this movie, but even though it's not subtle, it's very well done. You got like the messages about how civilized people can be just as savage as uncivilized people. You got the messages about journalism ethics when they're talking about how these filmmakers like to sensationalize everything and stage everything instead of actually telling the truth. You got, and then what else do you got in here? Okay, you got journalism ethics, you got civilized society, and clash of cultures. Yeah, clash of cultures, because you got the civilized people, like they got their own culture, very different from the culture of these tribes. And as you get to see like this horrific shit that these tribes are doing in the first half, you also get like at first like they're like how can I describe this? The professor and this rescue team, like they are absolutely horrified by the stuff that they're seeing, understandably so, because they pretty much are putting themselves in danger. But you also get like the professor who is trying to understand the ways of this tribe's life. Like you get to see him like understand their way of life, and really get to bond with them. And that part is actually it actually, in a weird way, felt like the purest part of the movie. Like there's something that felt weirdly pure about it. I can't describe it, but it's actually like the least horrific thing about this movie. And it's so well done. I really give the movie mad props for that. Okay, so do I have any negatives with Cannibal Holocaust? Yeah. Like there are some performances that are not very good. But also there are some scenes where where there's either terrible dubbing. I mean, that's pretty common for the time period this movie was released. Fuck, even some amazing films like the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. There's moments in that movie where there are some terrible ADR, but that's because of the time it was released in. They didn't really have the technology to really perfect it, so can't really fault the movie too much for that. But also, the big thing for me is that whenever someone speaks a different language, there's no subtitles. I don't know why they did that. I don't know if they I don't know if like they didn't somehow didn't have the budget to do that, or if they just forgot to, or they didn't even bother to. But it's something that's infuriating about this movie. Where yeah, it's like there's this one part, I think they're talking on a boat or something. This one guy speaking a totally different language, and there's no subtitles whatsoever. So you're just sitting there watching that scene, and there's like there's no subtitles, so you're just sitting there not understanding what the fuck this guy is saying. I think it happens a few times in this movie, not too often though, but it's very distracting when it does happen. It just kind of just takes you out of it, because I'm like, what the fuck are they saying? But otherwise, Cannibal Holocaust is a great fucking horror film, very effective. It's definitely not the most watchable movie of all time, but if you can just sit down, not let the horrific imagery distract you too much, Cannibal Holocaust is definitely worth it. It's a very rewarding experience. You'll get a lot out of it. It's very thought-provoking. It's as thought-provoking as it is graphic. I'm serious. Like, if you're just looking forward to a really effective horror film that you can get something out of, Cannibal Holocaust is your film. Cannibal Holocaust is a masterpiece in disturbing cinema, despite a few flaws, and I'm going to give it an A-.